what are we up to today?
Diving deeper into the tropes.
Into the tropes. And we're going to kick it off with insta-love, which you said was one of your favorite tropes. So I'm going to turn it over to you. And remember, everybody, if you like Tracey, like the video. And how can you not like her?
So kind. Okay, so I did a little research on insta-love because, I feel like I love my insta-love. And I typed it into Google, my good friend, and scrolling not even halfway down the page, it was like, why is insta-love the most hated trope? Came up right on Google. And I said,
you went,
why?
I will tell them how wrong they are.
Yeah, I was like, why it's hated, number one, and why is it most hated? So I peeked within, and it's because it's like Disney Cinderella. It's based purely on physical attraction, really, with no depth. Okay, I can get behind that. I would agree. So while I totally believe in love at first sight and completely value it, I can appreciate that perhaps insta attraction is a more suitable definition for what I was thinking of. But I mean, you cannot argue with Romeo and Juliet. Timeless classic.
Insta-love. And I was sort of with the insta-love haters there as saying that, well, yeah, it just seems too artificial and not very plausible. But then I started thinking about real life. And one of the comments we got was that insta-love is real in real life, right? So I was like, well, maybe for you, but I've never heard of it. And then I went back and I had a job once at a bookstore, working at a bookstore. And the woman in charge of the children's department, she was someone who did not have children in her life because she could not even think about how to care for these helpless beings. It just, the very thought was overwhelming. But she did say, and I did see that her and her husband together, she knew he was the one after 2 weeks, and they were engaged at 2 months. Although I'm kind of thinking the 2 weeks was the engagement period. I mean, I remember just going at the thought. For them, if it wasn't just, it had to be more than attraction to make that kind of commitment so fast, that it was more than chemistry. Do you have any examples in your life of insta-love?
Well, my life is insta-love. I met my husband. We were engaged in less than 3 months, and we were married 11 months and 1 day after we met.
Wow.
Which, compared to 2 weeks is quite long, but it's pretty
inside 3 months. That's like one season. Yeah. You had not even, what month did you guys
We met in July.
Well, then you never even had Christmas. Your first Christmas was as engaged. Wow.
Yeah, our first Christmas was engaged and hastily planning the wedding that we had to have in June. For the record, my child is 16 and I've been married 18 years. So
yes,
do the math there, folks.
I think you're approaching life, Tracey. I mean, doesn't it explain our relationship, right? We met in an elevator. A few hours later, we were partners in this YouTube
extravaganza.
It's possible in real life and in books. The problem with insta-love in movies or in books or in drama is, well, then how do you sustain it over the course? What's the problem then in a romance novel if there's insta-love on both sides? How can you have insta-love and still make it work? I think the key is that you can feel insta-love, but can you believe in its lasting connection? You can have the doubts set in a world that does not trust insta-love, where you're going to have arranged marriages, and that's part of many cultures where insta-love is not, it's even hard to imagine what that would look like. I was thinking that in a book or in a movie, then the tension is to know whether or not you made the right decision.
I can see that, or I can see it being within a story that is not a romance, So it's like survival in sci-fi land or something. And they have huge environmental issues to fight against, but there's this insta-love dome of security within it. And I can see it working like that. And I do not have an example of it, but I was just thinking that would really work. In one of the examples They were talking about it being a very popular trope in young adult romance.
Yes, because then the insta love is basically suppressed or unrequited. They cannot act on it immediately because as you said, these counter forces working against them being being a happy couple, so that you are go on the journey with them, not for the sake of the love, but just to see it have the happy ending at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're looking at a different story. But that does not devalue insta love.
No, no, we're talking about insta love on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite possible for one to feel the insta love and the other one not feeling it yet, afraid of the of commitment and opening up and that vulnerability. Oh, I do have an example. I think it was by Jill Barnett. The female lead was head over heels in this historical romance for the male lead. We got both sides of it, but the thing was is that he wasn't into her at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I felt for her because she just poured herself all over him. And I was like, oh, have some dignity about this.
Honey.
And he was trying to be just polite. And there's nothing worse than being polite. But she didn't care. She wanted him to know where her feelings were. For me, it was just this huge cringe, like, just go find someone else. No, just let it be. Not everything has to work out. But the big thing for me was she had lost her mother or parent, and he confronts her with her absolute love for him in kind of this complete unabashed flood of feeling. And she goes, you know, I never showed my mom how much I loved her. And one thing I've learned is you never hold back with your feelings. And it was like, that won him over too, because it gave a certain sort of bravery and dignity to the way she behaved. Yeah, that just melted my heart.
Yeah, so one-sided insta love maybe is the key to writing that kind of story, and fun to read. Fun to read, even though you had to cringe through her indignity, but you understood it all in the end.
Right. And in the end, she came out as a far stronger character than he did. He just had to give into her sort of seduction. She had to sort of overcome herself and just be who she was, and wore her heart on her sleeve. And
very interesting way to look at that trope.
I think so too. Yes.
I feel like they treat insta love as pretty unsophisticated, but I think it can be very sophisticated.
Well, I think often it is treated in an unsophisticated way because we immediately think crushes.
Yeah, teen crush, the hot boy on the football team, and
right. And you will get over that, except that you often don't. It's those first loves and instant loves that help you to understand, I think, why you love in the first place. Why do you feel this attraction? If that can be explored, then it does make it, even within not necessarily context of a romance, but just as a coming of age story, that helps to define what your values are too. So I think with insta love, it can be within the context of a romance, but what does that say about you as a person? Are you that impulsive person who does leap into this and then have feel the impact, or are you someone who can trust your feelings and that will carry you through on the dark days? And that you find that if you can do that, and so just like with Jill Burnett's character, she became an insta love goddess, so to speak, because she could transform other people into understanding that power of love. It's kind of love on the highest scale when you can completely eliminate all the rationale and reduce it to that, and yet it becomes wonderful. It doesn't become tawdry. So
yeah, it's pure. It's in a pure state if you don't even consider what the world would think of that, right?
Yeah. Yes, it's insta love for a lot for a person, but just an insta love for what the world can give you, and the excitement and the possibility that is wrapped up in a romance. So
Mhm.
very few people do the insta love thing.
So many
Not
doubts in
me.
our yeah,
So not me. So I admire you, Tracey.
jumped right in with both feet.
Yeah, when it came to you, I mean, because what's not to love?
Oh, bleh.
I think insta love does have it it does have its place, I think, at the beginning of every relationship to a certain extent. Like I think of my daughter's boyfriend. He told me, yeah, well, within the first 15 minutes, I knew this needed to move to a date. I always think of insta love 18 months later because apparently at the 18-month mark, that's a big test
Hmm.
statistically for couples.
Maybe a flashback insta love would be fine. Well, and second chance. Insta love, you were young, got together. The world said, look, honey, you're too young. You can't insta love someone. And then you come back like 10 years later, both available. Somebody should write that.
Probably somebody has.
What?
It's always a great
No.
idea. But
It's totally original.
with all good tropes, it doesn't matter, right? Because you can always write, be writing your story, right? The insta love is over. Like, comment, subscribe, everyone. Bye.